Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today, we are discussing the Alloy of Law, chapters 6 and 7, wherein there's a big old gun battle, and a bunch of people die, and then there's a Marasi perspective chapter where you things slow down a little bit, and we have some discussion about the Vanisher's evil plot. So I am Data, and with me is
Joe,
Jamie,
and Dak.
Yep, Jamie's back. Everyone can celebrate, listen again. Hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
The streets spin shimmers and the walls they curl. The grip of greed, it rains. There's just one track to lead this moving train. The price of progress is a dying world. The price of trust is pain after the wrath, the bitter shame. Look up into the night. Pillars of risen, they fall in their light. Forward we run, splinter the steel, weaken the wheel. Through life and loss, river to soul trying.
So yeah, what did you guys think? We got a big action set piece, which you guys had said you were expecting to come up. You're like, it's got to happen. Come on, this is a Mistborn book, right? We gone too long without some action. So how'd you like it? What did you guys think of these two chapters?
Yeah, it was good. It was satisfying. I really enjoyed the battle. I liked the different ways that the elementic powers can now be used and combined, and the ferrochemical powers along with them. The gunplay aspect, honestly, was probably the more boring part to me. I like the changes that Allomancy and Ferrochemy allow them to do with gunplay, but I'm more interested in Wayne as a fighter than Wax, even though Wax seems to be somewhat of a more intelligent fighter, just because he's not relying on the guns. I'm still feeling kind of weird about Marasi. I feel like she's being forthright, but at the same time, I still feel like there's something that she's hiding. But then we got a perspective from her, so now I'm less sure about that. So I don't know. It's a difficult one for me to. I feel like there's still another layer there we haven't been able to get peeled back yet, and that's kind of what I'm more interested in at the moment. But yeah, it ended up playing out similar to what I thought. I almost wish there was a direct chase, but I guess they have to kind of build towards getting the bad guy, so I totally get it. And then her coming to see him, it was an okay chapter. Her perspective was interesting and unique, but at the same time, I feel like it wasn't super necessary. None of the dialogue in it was super. I kind of figured out most of what they were talking about before they were talking about it. So it's not except for the aluminum alloy thing. That's probably the only interesting thing that came out of it. So yeah, that's I enjoyed him overall, but I'm ready to move on and read the next part for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because back when the aluminum bullet was first introduced, I think it's Dak who's like, I don't know that an aluminum bullet would actually work that well, but whatever. And now we get into this discussion where it's like, yeah, just an aluminum bullet probably wouldn't work that well. This turns out to be some sort of alloy or something.
Yeah, so I really liked the fight scene. I sort of agree the last chapter was a bit it was a very different change of pace, I guess, from what we'd read before. I also really enjoy watching how the ferrochemical abilities work with the allomantic abilities. I think that makes it a really cool fight, and I'm glad we got to see a lot of that in action. I'm also really interested now that we've had a perspective for Marasi, because I wasn't sure we were going to go down that path, because it's pretty much, I think it's all been Wax up until this point, to maybe get a Wayne point later. I would really be interested to sort of see the world through his eyes. It was interesting for me, how I'd kind of built Wax, we've been hearing his internal monologue to then have someone else come in and then get their interpretation of him was a bit different. I guess it's because he's sleep deprived in this chapter too, but I feel like he sort of came across a lot more bubbly than I was thinking.
Yeah.
for him too, but also, I mean, Marasi's kind of got a little bit of a thing for him, I think. So it's, yeah, how much is sort of are we seeing because we want to see it, like, or she wants to see that? I don't know. But I liked the change of perspective because it kind of pulled you out a little bit. I like the chapter in itself, I was not too concerned about, but yeah, I appreciated that sort of jolt out of it after, you know, so long in the ball. I think overall it was 3 chapters in the ballroom.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, all of yesterday's was in the ballroom as well. So,
yeah.
And some cool information that came up in there too. I kind of liked that whole thing in the ballroom, how it played out. I got to say, when they were talking about in the last chapter the genetic abilities, just before it got to the line, I was like, oh, they're gonna come up with their own breeding program, and then it was like, oh, they're gonna breed them. I was like, oh, well, there goes my prediction.
You're like, I've got it.
Brandon.
Oh, they've got it too. Okay.
Yeah, but good read. Good to see. Oh, I'm excited to see where it goes next as well. And yeah, keep in mind that it is a shorter book too, so we are getting through it quite quickly. How big is this thing gonna go? Yeah, exciting stuff.
I think it's interesting that you said that about Wax seeming different, because I've read this one a lot of times. When I go back and I want to reread a Mistborn book, it's often this one. Even though I like The Final Empire is my favorite one, but it's a lot longer than this book. So if I want to read a quick book, I'll be like, I'll go read Alloy of Law again. That's a fun one. And this may be the first time that in reading it, I was like, Wax really does seem different from her perspective. Like, he's bubbly was a good word, and I thought he seemed kind of a little wackier, like a little sillier. And I'm like, I guess from his perspective, he's like, I'm the serious one and Wayne is the weird one, like the wacky one. But Wax maybe has a little bit of that too, that he just doesn't bring out in his own perspective.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, because you missed the last one, but there's a reason that we don't get another perspective up until this Marasi chapter. And it's because I told him in the last one, when Brandon was originally writing this, the big fight was where the story ended. And Wayne was actually the main character of that story, and it was like this he was a hat maker, and there's this wacky thing with like this crazy hat maker coming into town on a talking horse, and there's this big fight, and it's the end. And so obviously that changed a lot since then, but it still had everything was from the one perspective, because that was the whole story was from that perspective originally. And so when he gets past that original set of chapters that he already kind of had worked up, now we start bringing in the other perspectives.
Yeah, okay. I sort of liked not having that perspective until now, because I feel like now it kind of organically opened that up. We didn't really know enough about her as a character. When we were reading Elantris, we got the 3 viewpoints straight away, regardless of whether they had anything interesting going on, and I felt like it was a little bit forced, like the more I think about it. And then Mistborn, you kind of got people's viewpoints when it was relevant. But we still, off the bat, I think we were Kelsier and Vin pretty quickly. But now, after we've had that and we know a bit more about her and obviously what she's studying and all that sort of stuff, I feel like now is an appropriate point to have her viewpoint come in. So I actually thought it was really good timing. You wouldn't have wanted it any earlier, I don't think.
Well, and you guys got to be suspicious of her motivations for a while, and now, like Joe said, you could still think that she's hiding something, but it's a little harder to think that she's like secretly evil after getting inside her head and seeing what she's thinking. So
yeah, exactly.
And I don't know, man. It's like it wouldn't be the first time the narration has lied to us. Quan. Yeah, no, like I really like this chapters. That entire gun battle, I spent the entire thing just going, oh, this is great. Like, I agree with a lot of what Joe said, but a hard disagree is like all the gunplay stuff. I'm just like, oh yeah, this is cool. I could watch Wayne pushing bullets through tables all day, and I would be happy. That was like
Wax,
yeah. Stupid W names. Just like I was just enjoying the fight scene all the way through. How they put their powers into play. How he's using his abilities to like fling up a barricade and then jump behind it and just ambush them, and then they're scrambling to load their aluminium bullets, and it's like, oh no, we don't want to waste the expensive bullets, and that's what got them killed.
Yep.
Yeah. So like, yeah, the entire battle, I'm just like, yep, this is great. Not so fond of the sort of cliche lawman who's just like, oh, you can't do that in my town. but I guess it was probably bound to happen given what we've already established about the city. When it first popped up that he's squinting at the leader and thinks, is that Miles? I'm like, all right, I know I've heard that name, but I flipped back through the book and I could not for the life of me find where it was mentioned.
It is when Wayne shows up and he's like, who's your leave in charge of like taking care of town? You could have at least called Miles. And then Wayne's like, Miles, he's a right horrible human being, mate. He'd rather kill a man than figure out if he's guilty first or something like that.
Okay. Yep, cool. So, all right, I want to see where that goes. I want to know more about Miles, if it is him, because Wax still wasn't entirely sure. Like he thought, oh, he's dead. It can't be Miles. And then, oh, the body's gone. Maybe it is. So I guess simplistically we have to go, right, well, it probably is. So we need to learn more about that guy. And I just think Miles is a really good bad guy name. So cool.
Miles per hour. No, he's not a bad guy. Never mind.
So that was all good. Yeah, the chapter from Marasi's perspective is like, yeah, like it was fine. I saw Wax's bubbliness, and I'm just like, is this because he's actually just invested in like being doing the lawman stuff, and that's what he's been trying to isolate himself from, and now he's getting back into it. He's just opened up a bit more as a person. But I guess it could also be just hey, from his perspective, he's not nearly. From someone else's perspective, he's not nearly as serious as he seems to think he is. I'm a little bit bummed that we're going this woman loves him, but he's jealous because he's marrying another. I'm like, oh, is this something we really need?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was the same when, Hrathen was in love with Serene last time. I'm like, did you need that? Really? But I guess that came at the very end of the book, and we saw where it led, so it's easy to say that, whereas this might actually play a greater part in the plot. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, like that chapter as a whole just really seemed like catching the reader up on some things as the characters figure them out. Just it seemed a bit spelling out, I guess. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. I don't get the butler. He seems just like he doesn't approve, but then he's also being the confidant, and like when he brings Marasi up, he's like, I'm sorry, the Lord cannot see you in the sitting room. Oh, he has advised me to bring you to his lab. Oh, I'm like, is that actually how he put it, or are you just trying to be like, are you just being a smart ass to the guests? That seemed for someone who's like meant to be set up as like the dutiful guy, like that seems a very odd way of putting it, rather than just going, hey, he'll see you in the lab.
How I kind of took that was he was testing her reaction to see like how if there is something kind of going on that he should be aware of, and when her reaction was like, oh, and he's like, oh, got her.
Okay,
like, I've clocked her. I know what she's in here for.
Okay,
I thought it was just him, like, this is him expressing his disapproval of what's happening. He's like,
could be that too.
I can't really say anything, so I'm just gonna mess with them.
Delorme, you are not paid to be a dick.
He's a couple times he's done some important work getting Wax back on task to actually run the house instead of messing around, so he's earning his keep, probably.
I don't know, he's got a weird attitude.
Yeah, we don't know what his relationship was with like Wax's uncle, like how they interacted and how long he worked for him, so
they were
who
lovers.
knows? Yeah. Lovers in the nighttime.
Women get the coachman,
daytime.
men get the butler.
Sure.
No, but like the in the nighttime thing is something they say a bunch in Psych, and I was watching some Psych episodes not long ago, and I'm like, I don't know why that's the way that he says that every time, but it's funny.
Yeah. I went and watched the first Yang episode the other day.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay. I guess let's get into these chapters. Chapter 6 starts out with the fight. The whole thing is the fight, but at the end of the last one, we ended with they were in the speed bubble, and Wayne was going to drop it, and it was like, let's do this thing. Very action movie sort of moment, and this one starts out, he drops the bubble, and they go to work. And so Wax starts out, like, he says at the end of the chapter, he's like, I'm going to try to make some room. You can catch a ride if you want. And I don't know how if it went exactly how you guys pictured from when he said that, but it was a weird statement to me the first time I read it. I'm like, how are you gonna make some room? But okay, now I get it.
I think the only reason it wasn't was because Wayne had suggested something similar before they had decided to do it.
Yeah. And so Wax starts out by taking out the guys that he sees with shotguns, just like one shot, one kill every time, like bam, dead, bam, dead. And he's like, the shotguns aren't super dangerous to him, but they would be the most dangerous to all the bystanders, so that's the ones that he focuses on. And he says, like, the smart thing to do would have been to crouch behind a table and just continue to fire so that it takes everyone a minute to figure out where the shots are coming from, because now some of the bandits who haven't noticed what he's doing they're like opening fire, so his shots don't necessarily draw attention from the entire group right off. But that's not the plan. He stands up and he flares his steel and taps his iron metal mine to become much heavier and like pushes out in all directions. So people with wearing metal, the tables based on the screws and bolts in the tables and chairs, everything is just like pushed out in a circle from him. So he makes a big empty space for himself. And Wayne jumps onto a table and rides it towards the edge of the room. And that's when they start shooting at him. Like, oh, wait, something's going on. It's that guy. It's that guy. He's tinsel on a tree. Okay. That girl is on the Peacock streaming thing, and it's been like since the 90s when that was on like TV Land that I watched that show. So I started watching the first episode randomly the other day, and I was like, this is not great. And I didn't finish the first episode.
Is that one of those shows that really didn't age well?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that it's about the age. It's a little bit about the aging, but it's just like
it's like age well. It wasn't good to start with.
It's just not that interesting. I've seen episodes of it. Like there's no hook. Like I'm not grabbed by anything that happens in that show.
In my mind, in my memory, it's like on par with the Mary Tyler Moore Show. But I really like the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and I don't like this one as much.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's see. He starts shooting some bandits. He spreads his arms and spins and shoots 4 people while he's just spinning around. This is like some ridiculous action movie shit that he's pulling off here. And then someone starts yelling, "Use your aluminum bullets!" Because he's still his steel bubble is still managing to deflect pretty much all the gunfire that's coming his way, which is impressive given that he's in the middle of the room killing people and everyone is shooting at him basically.
Yeah, if they'd cast this movie in the 90s, it would have been like early 90s, it would have been like Bruce Willis.
For some reason, I'm picturing like Jet Li, like the one Jet Li, which doesn't make any sense, but in this scene, that's what I'm picturing. Okay, so finally, after someone yells, "Start shooting him with aluminum," he goes ahead and grabs some cover.
They says, "Yeah, get your aluminum bullets." Like, "Oh, that one's smart. Better kill him."
Yep. After the guy yelled that, he fires 2 shots into his chest, and he's like, "Okay, good."
Rule number 1: kill the smart bad guys.
Right? Yeah, take out the leader. Mangalores won't fight without the leader. So I like the note. He's like, "It seems I'm in luck. Apparently, based on the bandit leader's curses, the men were already supposed to have aluminum bullets loaded in at least some of the chambers, but shooting aluminum was like shooting gold, and the bandits apparently wanted to go ahead and save those and not end up accidentally shooting them." The guy jumps out and aims his pistol at Wax, and Wax uses his power to like shove the pistol back in the guy's face and then shoots him in the chest.
That was so cool. Oh, there's so many cool little moments in this battle.
There really are. I'm not going to hit all of them probably, but there are just a lot of fun little like when he does the same thing that we saw him do in the prologue where two bandits jump behind a table, and he's like, "Okay, let me just take aim and then push on the bullet to give it some extra oomph and kill them right through the table." Then he's got his third gun. Remember, he started with 2. The third gun strapped to his calf. Not a large caliber, but a long barrel to make it precise. Which I think that's a note that it just needs to be reiterated here, is that he seems extraordinarily accurate. It mentions like one guy that he has to shoot twice. He's just like bam, 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 taking these guys out so fast and so accurately. It's impressive.
Yeah, I almost wonder if he like slightly pushes on all his bullets to get them to be more accurate or something.
I've wondered that too.
I mean, if you could, then you probably would, right?
I definitely would.
Yep.
And then we see Wayne across the way. Since he uses these canes, apparently his tactic is he'll get close to a guy, bring him a bubble, fight him one-on-one, and then drop the bubble again. And that prevents the rest of the group from getting a good aim on him, because by the time their bullets get to where they're shooting them, he's moved within the bubble.
Instead of shooting at where I was, you should have shot at where I was going to be.
It's cool. It's a cool tactic. I see it like being similar to to like a Nightcrawler Bamf type thing. It's like
Yeah.
they disappear for a second and then they reappear and the guy's down
Yeah,
and he's moved a little bit.
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Let's see. So the bad guys finally get their aluminum in and start pelting him with aluminum bullets, and he's like, okay, I guess I'll drop my bubble. It's kind of useless at this point. I feel like maybe keep it up just in case somebody is not using the aluminum, but whatever. That's me.
Also, it would have been really cool to have Ben Deloy in the original Mistborn trilogy.
Right? Like, how much might that have changed things if Vin can put up like a speed bubble?
Pretty sure it would have changed things for the worse because all the Inquisitors would have been able to do it.
Oh, that's
true.
Yeah.
You know, it would be interesting to see though, like if she combined Ben Deloy with like Duralumin, would that like make time stop for like a long time, or like what would happen, you know?
Well, and even without that, I mean, multiple people, like multiple Mistborns being out there raises the question of what happens if like you put up one and then the other person puts up one. Are you like increasing it by a factor of, you know, how fast time is moving, or does it do nothing? Like there's all sorts of questions.
It out? Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Well, the thing I've wondered since we found out what Wayne can do with these time bubbles is he aging at a normal rate in those? Is he going to be like have the body of a 60-year-old man by the time he's 40 because he's been using these time bottles so much? Or
he can also heal, so maybe that helps.
Does healing reverse the aging process?
Oh, okay, that's fair.
I mean, according to X-Men logic, it does, but
yeah, not in Mistborn though, because we know that he had to use Adium to like get younger, right? So
yeah.
Okay, so there's an interesting thing that I wanted to pull out of the annotations at this point, because he talks about how he likes being able to, you know, do the combination of these powers that we were talking about, feruchemy and allomancy, and he likes to have, you know, scientific backing for like the things that he's doing. So he wants the powers to work in a scientific way, basically. But at the same time, he's like, he says, I acknowledge that like weight manipulation aspect of feruchemy is one of the more baffling powers scientifically. Is he changing his mass? If so, he should become more dense, which I actually don't make the case, because then if you became heavy enough, you'd be impervious to bullets because you were so dense. So that, you know, that takes a whole road that he doesn't want to take. So he's like, okay, so if it's not mass manipulation, is it somehow gravity manipulation? Which, again, not really, because when his weight increases, his strength and ability to uphold that weight increase as well. So, and he can't make himself so light that he has no weight at all. So the point being, at some point, when you look at it too much, the ability to explain it scientifically breaks down on some of this stuff. So he's like, I have to set boundaries for, you know, if I can't figure out scientifically a way that it works, then he just, within his own mind, has to set boundaries for within the world. This is the limit of what you can do, and then just accept that it's going to be a little bit irrational sometimes. And the reason I even bring it up is because he then says, don't even get me started on what should be happening scientifically when Wayne speeds up time. Because it does bring into question, like, there should be like red shift happening or blue shift, depending on how you're looking at the bubble. And there should, like, because light's going to be changing speed, right, as it passes through there. So there's a bunch of weird shit that when you look at like time manipulation that would be happening here. And he's like, nope, just ignoring all that.
Yeah, they just disappear and nobody can see them because they're moving too fast.
At the end of the day, it is fiction. Yes, it's great to have some kind of scientific ideas in the background of how it works. At least you've got some plausibility to it. But at the end of the day, it is fiction.
Yeah,
it's not real. You can't actually swallow metals and give them these powers. Like, don't try this at home, kiddos.
Yeah, especially not with Bendeloy. Apparently that's like poisonous just to touch, if I remember reading the article correctly. So don't do that. All you kids who might get your hands on Bendeloy just at the corner store, don't eat it.
And who had the idea in world to be like, hey, this super poisonous metal, let's see if this one is allomantically.
Let's take a bite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, how much of like figuring out the allomantic metals was people getting drunk and just like, let's just see what this one does.
And the thing is, without Mistborn, it's even less likely that like any given metal would be useful to you, because you at best you might have one of 16. So it's really a dangerous proposition.
Yeah. Well, maybe they left. Maybe they know all the metals now. Maybe Harmony left the book. Say's left the book with all the metals in it.
No, actually, that in his book at the end of the last chapter, he's like, oh, and by the way, there's a couple metals left. You're going to be interested when you find out what they do.
Oh, that's true.
Magical powers or lead poisoning.
Exactly. Yeah, apparently lead doesn't do anything, so anyone who tried that.
Yeah.
But this is also when Wax figures out the voice. He's like, wait, Miles? The thought was a shock. But then Marasi screams and he gets distracted immediately. So maybe, not Miles. Who knows? Marasi has gone limp as Tarson is trying to drag her out the door. And he has his gun shoved up to her ear. And she knows that she's not just a random hostage, that they want her specifically, so they're not going to shoot her, so she can make herself difficult and know that him I'm going to shoot you if you don't move, doesn't actually mean anything. Or at least she hopes that that's the case. I also like that this gun he had strapped to his ankle, he loaded it specifically with bullets designed to lodge in wood to give him an anchor to push on. That makes a lot of sense given his power. That's a smart move. Then he has a moment where he leaps onto a serving platter and surfs it or something across the room. Now I'm feeling like Jackie Chan. This is the wacky Jackie Chan stunts, like Rush Hour with the steering wheel. And
see, that one made me think of Orlando Bloom in The Two Towers when he tosses that shield down the stairs and rides it like a surfboard.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna say Orlando Bloom in the second Hobbit movie where he's just jumping. Yeah, exactly. In the ridiculous river scene. And so he's heading for Marasi to try to save her. As he gets to where he's going, he flips the platter up and uses it to block some bullets that are coming at him, and then tries to push Tarson's gun away from Marasi, except there are no lines pointing to Tarson's gun. He has an entire gun made out of aluminum, which Wax was not expecting. And then as he wants to take a shot at him, he hears Marasi whimper, and he remembers Lessie again, and he's like, I can't do it. I've done the shot a dozen times. I can't do it. And when Tarson realizes Wax isn't going to shoot, he smiles and swings his aluminum gun to shoot Wax. And that's when Marasi gives him a headbutt in the chin, making his shot go wild, and gives Wax the chance to put him down with a shot to the arm once she's clear. And then as he grabs Marasi, shoots the masked bandit leader in the face, and the guy collapses, and he's like, okay, well, yeah, that can't be Miles then. Miles would never fall into a mere bullet. He was a twin-born of a particularly dangerous variety. Okay, any ideas what Miles is?
Twin-born, dangerous, interesting.
Well, if he's been shot and he went down and then potentially picked himself back up again, you'd assume that, all right, is that some sort of healing thing, or would he have? Does he have the shield like the Wax can do, or?
I'm gonna say. Go ahead, Dak. I'm sorry.
No. I'm just spitballing at this point. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say he's a pewter arm, and he can. He's a pewter arm, and he can conserve strength and use it.
So double pewter.
Yeah, which would make him it would make him near invulnerable, skin wise,
Oui.
Interesting.
Because if he could conserve strength, but then he could also burn to give himself more strength, then he could have potentially an unlimited well of strength.
Yeah, and we do know that increases your body's durability also. So okay, yeah.
Yeah, I reckon you're onto something there. I don't think it's going to be anything that we've already seen. It's got to be something.
Oh, something new.
I was not necessarily new to the world, but new to we know two twin-borns at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be something like that replicated. I think it'll be a different combo. But I like the idea of the pewter just be really strong.
I mean, we know what one new metal does allomantically, but if there's 4 new metals, we're still missing 3 there, and we're still missing what all 4 do in ferrochemy. We have no idea what kind of crazy stuff Bendalloy does when you're a ferrochemist.
That's a good
right?
point.
So who knows?
Because it wouldn't have to be tied to time. It could be something completely different.
Yep. Kind of like how iron is weight manipulation, and in allomancy it's pulling. They're not really similar. I'm sorry, Dak. Did you have something that you wanted to guess after you're spitballing your thoughts?
No. I'm just the hamster is spinning the wheel in my head and not coming up with anything. So fucking hamster.
Get in shape, hamster. Spin faster. Okay, so Tarson is rolling over. Wax is like, no time. Gun's empty. Drops his gun and pushes off of the gun into the air. A hail of bullets flying through the space that he just left, and unfortunately missing Tarson, who's still rolling around on the floor. He pushes off a chandelier in midair to get him and Marasi up onto one of the balconies. Where the musicians are still cowering. That'd be interesting. You're like, musicians on one side of the room, magicians on the other side of the room. This would be awesome.
It's gonna be the best wedding ever.
I was picturing like some poor hapless magician is just cornered by the bandits, and he's like, "All right, fine, time to pull a Tommy gun out of my hat," and just pops them all.
Nice.
Or he's just like, I'll give you guys my cape. It's got real silk. That's all I have, I swear.
As he's hiding everything in his hat.
He's pulling like the string of scarves out of his sleeve and sets up a tripwire with them.
He's like, I've got a hat full of milk, but I don't think you want that.
He pulls a bunny out of the hat, and the bunny has a gun.
He's actually a magician that took a hat.
So that's why Wayne wants his hat back.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I like how I'm setting up this whole thing as of a magician like being a total badass, and Joe's like the flip side. The magician is a total loser.
Yep.
Yeah. He's just
Sorry,
like,
take my money.
guys, I just do illusions.
Dax magician is Rambo over here, but so he saved Marasi now, and she's like, "Oh, thank you." He's like, "Don't mention it. That was really brave what you did, stopping the bandit like that." And she's like, "Yeah, 7 out of 10 kidnappings can be foiled by appropriate resistance on the part of the target." And then she's like, "I'm sorry, this is all just very unsettling for me." Yeah, it would be. So
At this point too, I was like, "Oh, don't be the person that always responds with some kind of fact." Yep, you're smart. This is what you study. Please don't let this form who you are. In my book.
She's statistics lady. It'll be great.
Yeah, I mean, in stressful situations, if that's what calms you, then that's totally fine. I'll allow you that, but just don't be that person all the time.
I want to write a book now where the hero is the guy who knows all the statistics. And he's just like, yeah, I'm going to save the world through statistics. It'll be great. I guess that's basically like Numbers, that show. Which I do love
the show.
Yeah, it's a great show. Anyway.
Of course, Data, king of statistics, wants the main hero to be a guy who's super
damn it, you beat me to it.
Hey, how about those listener statistics? What do you got for us this week, Data?
Okay, if you insist. Hold on.
No, I was making fun of you. I don't want to actually hear that.
Oh, that's sad. Because now you're gonna. Oh my gosh.
I mean, if you've got statistics ready to pull out, that's impressive.
Yeah, if you got them there, I guess I'll listen to them.
I didn't have them up, but now I have them up. It took me that long to log in. So let's see.
But now you know.
In the month of February, we've had 108 downloads in Texas, 296 in California, 122 in Massachusetts. Massachusetts is number 2 this month.
Wow.
In the U.S. Let's see. In Australia, no downloads from the Northern Territory or South Australia. 6 from Western Australia, 7 from Queensland.
Oh, hey.
37 in New South Wales and 28 in Victoria.
37?
And worldwide, it's the U.S., the U.K., Canada, and then Brazil, and then Australia in the top 5 for this month.
We're not representing very well, are we?
Didn't we get beaten by New Zealand one month?
I think that was a thing, yes. I remember that.
Yeah.
And then Australia, after Australia, is Germany and Mexico and India. So I like that it's like the top 3 are English-speaking countries, and then there's Brazil, and then there's back to Australia for another English. They just, Brazil, they enjoy it. It's all good.
Didn't you say Brand's really popular there?
Yeah, actually, he does have a big following, so it makes sense. And I also posted on Reddit this week because that was when our first Alloy of Law episode went up. So it's like, hey, everybody, we're reading Alloy of Law. So we got a little bump off of that, not like a big one.
Cool.
Anyway, so fun times. Joe asked for it. That'll teach him.
Oh, no, I've learned my lesson.
But yeah, so they're up on the balcony and he hears people coming up the stairs. And so he pushes the giant harp into them and like crushes them in the stairwell. Oh, gosh, that's awesome. And then he takes their guns.
I guess you could call this music heavy metal.
Oh.
I don't know why he had a weird accent for that.
Yeah, he's German or something. Or...
I mean, I hate it, to be honest.
Heavy metal.
So, yes, then he's like, hey, do you know how to use a gun, Marasi? And hands her a pistol. And she's like, I don't. He's like, that's fine. Just point and shoot. And he's going to go after Steris now because he saved Marasi. It's time to save Steris. Only that's when he notices that Wayne is in trouble. There's a guy standing over Wayne who's bleeding on the ground. The guy's pistol is smoking. He's like, uh-oh.
I do feel like this guy took forever to actually get around to trying to kill Wayne because Wax seemed to, I don't know, it's just like all the actions that Wax took to get there. It probably was a lot quicker than it seemed, but it seemed like Wax had to do a lot to get over there. Then this guy's just standing over Wayne, just like, am I going to shoot him in the spine or in the kidneys?
Wasn't it the case that Wayne had to drop the bubble so he thought he was dead, but he just hadn't checked his vitals yet?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
There's that, but like I mean, like the actual gunman trying to kill him seemed to take forever to get to it.
I mean, the gunman shot him, and then the bubble dropped, so he thinks that Wayne's dead theoretically, so he wouldn't have to shoot him again. He doesn't know that you can use gold to heal himself.
I mean, true. Just like I don't know. Maybe I was misreading. It just seemed like he was standing over Wayne, not doing anything the entire time Wax took to get there.
He just had to scratch his head and figure out where he was going next.
He's looking around like, where'd that other guy go? Did I hear a heart break? Maybe I should look for that.
And Wax is just like, death from above!
I thought you said, did I hear a heart break? And I was like,
did someone's heart break when I murdered this guy?
Every day. I'll never forget him. He was my bandit friend.
So Wax just like leaps off the balcony and makes himself light, and so he gets over the chandelier, I guess, because then it says he throws all of his pushing into the chandelier, and no, I guess he doesn't get light, he gets heavy because he's in the air once he gets heavy, so it doesn't matter that he's heavier, you don't fall faster, whatever. So he rips apart the chandelier, crystals exploding outwards in a shower. But that gives him room to get to Wayne. He pushes against that harp that is behind him now to push out over the room. And he soars in a graceful arc across the room. And then, as he's falling through the air, empties 6 chambers into the guy. He really wanted to make sure this one was dead. This is the one guy we've seen him take more than 2 bullets on. He's just like, bam, 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 die! You hurt my friend.
Yeah, like the guy who took Marasi got a bullet to the arm. The guy who hurt Wayne took 6.
Yep. So... really, given how many people he's killed, there should be plenty of guns lying around that you can use, dude. It's fine. And Wayne brings up the bubble again. He's like, oh, damn it, gut wounds hurt. And this is where he explains. It's like Wayne couldn't keep the bubble up when the bandit was alive, because then the guy would know that he wasn't actually dead. And people are used to metalborn, even though they're not super common. So if the bubble had stayed up, the bandit would have shot him in the head to make sure he was dead.
Okay, is this the first time I've come across the term metalborn?
Maybe.
Because like, is that? I mean, that's not Wayne's specific thing. It says he's a blood maker. So is metalborn just what they call mistings now?
Well, mistings or ferrochemists, I guess. Like anyone who can use metal for magic. But this is definitely the first time in this book we've heard the term metalborn, because when I searched for it, this is its only appearance in the book. So
okay,
I'm assuming that's what it means, is that anyone who can use metal in some way magically.
Right. Regardless of which power set it is, like ferrochemy or allomancy.
Or both, I guess, but yeah.
Yep, okay.
So Wayne's type of ferrochemist who can use gold to heal himself is called a blood maker, which I feel like that's a really cool name. That's a good one.
Yep.
So he can store up health by spending time being sickly and weak.
Which that would suck, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's a pretty good power, but it's a pretty high price to pay.
Yeah, I think he told Wax that he spent like 2 weeks sick in bed saving up health after Wax left, so that's not fun. This is his second bullet wound of the night. He thinks he has enough left to heal one more, and he's like, see, it took me a good 2 weeks in bed to store up that much. Hope this girl of yours is worth it. Wait, girl of mine? Yeah, I saw how you were looking at her during dinner. You always did like him smart. He's like, dude, Leslie hasn't even been gone a year, and Wayne says, you have to move on eventually. I'm done with this conversation. Like, they're in the middle of a gun battle, and they're talking about his love life, so yeah, it's just... Vanisher bodies lay strewn and about, bones broken by Wayne's dueling canes. And there's a few guys hiding behind tables for cover as if they hadn't yet realized that Wayne didn't carry guns. So there's 6 left. And Wayne's like, I brought down 7. How about you? And Wax says 16, I think. I haven't been counting carefully. So what's that? 16 and 7 is 23, and there's 6 left. That's 29. That's pretty close to that's a little less than what we started with, because there were like 30 some odd, right?
39 or something. Anyone else get like Legolas and Gimli vibes?
Yep. Yeah.
It makes total sense.
Still only counts as one.
It's really similar because Legolas even has the ranged weapon while Gimli uses the up close hand weapon.
Oh yeah, this really adds to the whole.
Yeah, I totally thought of that.
Really adds to the whole wax riding the platter like Legolas did.
Yep. Although I guess Legolas really was willing to use other stuff than his bow. Sometimes he'd stab people with his arrows or something. You can't shoot them if they're too close up, obviously. Unlike with a gun.
He had knives, I think.
Yeah,
well.
I think you're right. As an archer, you have to have something for when they get up close because you're kind of screwed. And then Wax is like, dude, it's not a competition, even if I am winning. Some guys got out the door with Steris. I shot the guy who took your hat. He lived, probably gone by now. You didn't grab my hat for me, he says, sounding offended. I was a little busy being shot at. Busy? Oh, mate, it doesn't take any effort at all to get shot at. I think you're just making excuses on account of being jealous of my lucky hat. Oh, gosh.
Every time I read Lucky Hat, all I can think of Bart Simpson's Lucky Red Hat.
Yep.
And I don't know if we've actually gotten a description of what kind of hat Wayne was wearing, so I just assume it's a red cap.
If I recall correctly, it's like a wide-brimmed. They call it Ruff's hat repeatedly, which I don't know what that means exactly, but it's got a wide brim. And Wax specifically mentions earlier in that the last section we read that like it's designed to like fold up so you can get it small.
Okay.
But that's the information that we have about it, as I recall.
Yeah.
What are those hats you wear in the snow with the ear flaps? Is that what they mean by folding it up?
Hello?
So Wax says, I'm going to take the three on the left. You go right. Let's get them. And I like as Wayne runs and jumps, Wax pushes on his metal mines to send him farther, flying towards the bandits across the room. And then he makes himself lighter and pushes on some nails to throw himself across the room. And Wayne just starts beating the shit out of guys with his canes. It says he hits one in the arm and smashes another one in the neck, which, ow, jeez. Wax throws his gun as he's falling and pushes it into the face of a guy. And then uses the empty cartridge that Wayne had given him earlier as an improvised bullet, slamming it into a guy's forehead and piercing his skull. So it says improvised bullet because that's what he's used to. In my mind, it's like, oh, he's using it like a coin from the original series. Got it.
Yeah.
And he knows there's one more behind him, but he thinks he's doing it a little too slow. And then he hears a shot, and he's like, oh, shit, I've been shot. And then it says, what? By the survivor's scars. And he looks up, and Marasi grabbed grabbed a rifle from the bandit that he'd crushed and clearly knows how to use it.
So, yeah, it's like, so you're not just a student studying criminal justice.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and then she shoots a second bandit. And Wayne's like, wow, I'm liking her more and more. Definitely the one of the two I'd pick if I were you. Which reminds Wax that, oh, there's another one. Steris, I need to go get her. And he notices that the boss's body is not there. So he's like, oh, wait, maybe that was Miles after all. Miles was a lawman, one of the best. Couldn't be facing him. But some horses stood there with a large group of grooms that lay gagged and bound on the ground. It's harsh. The grooms, they didn't even do anything.
I mean, yeah, but also they could have just shot them, so.
That's true. That's a good point. But Steris and the bandits have disappeared. There is a large group of constables who are just now showing up. And he goes, great timing, chaps. And that's when we get into, I agree, it's a little bit stereotypical, this Constable Breton. He's like, I don't care who you are, how much money you have. You've made a mess. This whole thing.
I mean, I guess it's a cliche that's still kind of, like, there's a reason it exists.
Yeah.
Because it is a common thing, and in terms of storytelling, especially for this kind of story, it's like you need someone to push back and remind them, no, there is actually a system of law and order that you're ignoring by doing this. So
yeah, if you didn't have someone saying something, it would seem odd.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't the Roughs. You can't do anything you want here. You think you can just pick up a gun and take the law into your own hands? So they're in the kitchens with this guy yelling at him. And Wax is like, look, man, I'm sorry. Old habits, I should have restrained myself, but could you have watched women being kidnapped and not done anything? And he goes, I have a legal right and responsibility. And Wax goes, I have a moral right and responsibility, Constable. And here's where we get our body count. The guy comes in and he goes, 25 dead, Captain. And Breton's like, do you see what you've done? If you'd kept your head down, those innocent people would still be alive today. I could hang for this mess. And the other guy's like, no, I'm sorry, Captain. That's bandit casualties. 25 of them are dead and 6 captured alive. And he's like, oh, how many civilians were killed? Just one, sir, Lord Pateras. He was shot before Lord Ladrian started fighting back. And he pulls the guy off to the side, and Wax just hears like some whispers or hushed bits of conversation. Like, you mean 2 men to 31 by themselves? Yes, sir. Anyone else wounded? Broken bones, not too serious, bruises and scrapes. They were going to open fire. So this is really a situation where this guy should be thanking him, probably. But he's made such a big deal that he's like, well, you're lucky. You got lucky is all that is. This could have been a lot worse. But you broke some bones with that allomantic stunt of yours. There'll be bruised egos and angry lords, and they'll come to me to complain. Really? That's...
Yeah, this is like that angry cop in Die Hard. And it's like, you're a little stunt. There's glass everywhere down here. And Bruce Willis is just like, glass? Who the fuck cares about glass?
Yeah, we got dozens of people covered in glass. Who gives a shit about glass? Put the other guy back on. Yeah. Oh, I love that movie.
Yep.
Who doesn't love Die Hard, to be fair, though? My wife was not a fan, actually, now that I say that.
Hans Gruber doesn't like Die Hard.
Or his brother.
But he's part of the reason it's great.
And the guy's like, look, I know all about you. I knew we were going to have this talk at some point. This is my city. I'm in charge here. And Wax is like, okay, so where were you when the bandits started shooting people in the head?
Fair point.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, right?
I'm about to ruin this man's whole career.
And the guy's like, I'm not threatened by you. And Wax says, good. I haven't said anything threatening yet. And this is just like Wax starts out the conversation just being like, I'm sorry. You're right. I should have controlled myself. And then just like after the body count stuff comes out, he just stops giving a shit. It's like, I don't need to deal with you. Okay. I'm too tired for this shit. Which is interesting.
I need to go home and have my butler make me some wonderful tea.
Right. Yeah.
I'm too old for this shit.
It's funny that he's so tired. We know he doesn't sleep after this based on the next chapter. So, and the guy says, you keep a civil tongue or I'm have a mind to toss you in jail for the night. He's like, okay, do it then. Maybe by the morning you'll find the other half of your mind and we'll be able to have a reasonable conversation. Damn. Just
keeps going. You're not making a friend, buddy.
Oh, no, he's not. And then the guy just leaves. He's just like, can't deal with this anymore. And Wax thinks Harmony protect us from small-minded men with too much power. Ain't that the truth? That's just like a motto for life. Maybe not the Harmony part, because most people don't know what that would even mean. But
right,
the rest of it. So he goes out and finds Lord Harms, who is not taking the loss of his daughter well.
Fair.
And Wayne, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we found out last time that he's not the biggest fan of his daughter, but that doesn't mean that, he wants her taken by bandits. So Wayne hands Wax a revolver. He's like, I figured you want one of these. It's one of the aluminum guns. He's like, yeah, I got it from the collection that the constables were making. Apparently there were 10 of them. Figured you could sell it. I spent a lot of Bendeloy fighting these gits, and I need money to replace it. Don't worry, I left a real nice drawing I did in the gun's place. So
I hope it was a drawing of a gun.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like a drawing of that gun. Yeah. But it was real nice, so.
Given that he draws things in stick figures,
That's true.
It's going to be a great drawing.
I hadn't thought about that.
It's like it's not even a picture of a gun, a drawing of a gun. It's like a drawing of like 2 lines with a bullet coming out.
This is a picture of the gun, and then below is a picture of me holding the gun as I ride away laughing.
On his talking horse. But he also grabbed a bunch of bullets, aluminum bullets, and Wax is like, these are rifle bullets. And he goes, so? So they won't fit this revolver. Why not? Because?
I like how he doesn't further explain. It's like, they're not the same size. It's just like, well, that's a dumb way to make guns.
Yeah, kind of a dumb way to make bullets, isn't it? Most things about guns baffle Wayne, apparently, who is generally better off throwing a gun at someone than trying to fire it. I love that. That's a great quality to have thrown in here about one of your main characters in your Western story is like, oh no, he can't shoot a gun for shit. He should throw it at people rather than fire it at them.
He has better aim when throwing somehow.
Wax does not, however, turn down the aluminum gun that he knows was just stolen from the cops, traded, quote unquote. But I like to imagine now, like they get these guns back, and they're like, okay, so we have 10 guns written down here that were collected. They start pulling them out. Sir, there's only 9, and a picture of, is that a cat? I don't know.
Someone's left a child's drawing here.
Yeah. It appears to be a photograph of a man's penis.
Oh, jeez.
It just says Dear Freezer, and there's a picture of a butt.
And Lord Harms is just like, why would they take her? I mean, they'll let her go, won't they? They said they would. No, they haven't let any of the other ones go, have they?
May I see the drawing, Constable?
And Lord Harms is like, you have to find Asteris. I'll pay any price. I mean, she's your fiance, right? You have to find her. And Wax is thinking, yeah, I mean, it's funny how quickly someone goes from calling you a miscreant and a rogue to being real nice when they want your help, huh? But he promises that he will find her. And Marasi wants to get him to his carriage, and he's like, no, I just want to be by myself for a while. Just let me go. I promise I won't leave without you, but I need some time. And Marasi's like, he wishes that you'd rescued her and not me. And Wayne doesn't care. He's like, so Wax, where was that guy with my hat? He's like, I told you he got away. Well, I thought maybe he dropped my hat. I mean, getting shot makes people drop stuff, right? He's like, no, he still had the hat on when he left. And Marasi's like, dude, it's only a hat. And Wax says he thinks it's lucky. And Wayne says, it is lucky. I ain't never died while wearing that hat.
It's true.
Marasi's like, I don't know how to respond to that. And Wax says, yeah, that's a common reaction to Wayne. And he's like, where did you learn to shoot? And she goes, Ladies Target Club at the university. We're quite well ranked against other clubs in the city. I don't suppose either of those fellows I shot pulled through. And Wayne says, no, you plugged them right good, you did. The one near me left brains all over the door. Oh, that wasn't necessary.
Nah, you did a great job. Brains are all over that door. It's perfect.
Wayne just goes, that's what happens when you shoot someone. At least usually someone has the good sense to get dead when you go to all the trouble to shoot them. And Wax says that the guy, Kolos blooded for sure, might have been a pewter arm as well. Which I wonder, I mean, we know even in the Final Empire days, they were called pewter arms. That was like the nicer word instead of thug, which was the more common term. I wonder if thug has also fallen out of parlance.
Yeah, thug.
And so now it's time he can test his theory. He's like, was Steris an Allomancer? And Marasi says no. And he goes, are you sure she might have been hiding it? And Marasi's like, no, definitely 100%. I can promise you she's not an Allomancer or a ferrochemist. And Wax is like, I gotta think this through. There's too much going on here. I'll bid you good night. I'm exhausted, and if I may be bold enough to say it, you look the same. Like he's very polite. It's nice.
It's a very nice way of saying you also look like crap.
Right? Yeah. And Wayne's like, so you're gonna marry her cousin, huh? And Wax says, yep, that's the plan. And Wayne says, awkward. But once upon a time, a brilliant, beautiful, intriguing young woman who was an excellent shot would have left him completely smitten. Now he barely gave it a passing thought. And this is possibly my favorite part of the chapter, actually, so where he's like, so where are you staying, Wayne? I don't know. I found this house where the folks who lives there is away, but I think they might be back tonight. Left them some bread as a thanks. Oh, Wayne, my man, that's ridiculous. He's like, I'll give you a room, assuming you promise not to steal too much. What? I never steal, mate. Stealing's bad. Might need to trade you for a hat to wear until I get my other one back, though. Do you need any bread? I wonder where he got the bread.
Yeah, where is he getting all this bread from?
Like, the drawing made sense. Like, I can draw something for you as much as you want, but...
Well, hang on. Wasn't he posing as a waiter and stealing bread out of the bread basket?
Oh, that's true. But he couldn't have left that in the house that he's staying in because he hasn't been back there yet.
Maybe he's lying about having already left it. He was intending to do it when he got there.
Yeah, maybe. That makes sense.
Too many flaws in your story.
I don't believe you really have any bread.
Lies. So we cut to the Marasi chapter where we come the next morning and she's standing on the street outside of the Ladrian Manor. The address is 16 Ladrian Place. That's when you know you're rich. Yeah.
You live on your own.
But not rich enough to live at number 1 of his own street.
Okay, fair point. Maybe that's not as nice a neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's Breeze's place. He's gonna have the street named after him.
I'm surprised Breeze even went with his family name. Apparently he was never a big fan of it.
Yeah.
Maybe Alrian insisted.
Or maybe it was like, you know, his rich nephew or something.
Yeah, like the next generation kind of.
Yeah, that started it.
And so she wants to go in there and offer her help, but she's afraid that Wax is going to think that she's just some silly girl with a hobby of law, whatever, who couldn't be any help to a seasoned lawman like him. He is apparently a living legend, it says, one of her personal heroes. A guy walks past walking his dog and tips his hat to her and then gives a distrustful glance to Ladrian Mansion. Okay, I see how it is, random guy on the street. Apple trees in the front garden. City law established by the Lord Mistborn himself required that even ornamental trees provide fruit. So no worthless plants in the Lord Mistborn city.
So says Spook, king of the land.
And so plants in the Ellendale Basin grow bountifully with little need for care or cultivation, which fits with what we read last time. A final gift of the survivor, his munificent touch upon the land. Really, the survivor? All right, if you say so.
I don't think the survivor had anything to do with it, guys, but okay.
He's like, Seized, make the land nicer, okay?
Well, I guess, Calciera had Mare, and she had the picture of the flowers, so maybe he was like, well, make it nice.
She's standing out here remembering quotes from her professors in various classes. And finally,
sorry, before we move on, just a thought that occurs to me. A final gift from the survivor, even though Lord Mistborn made the requirement. Well, Kelsier was following Spook around and Spook could hear him, so...
True.
That's true.
And he's like, so says the survivor. What do you mean, Lord Spook? Just go.
Do not question, Lord Spook.
Do not question, and call me Lestaborns, damn it.
She knocks on...
Survivor of the flames.
Of the flame, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wonder if anyone remembers him as the survivor of the flames anymore. Maybe he's Lord Mistborn apparently, so.
Yeah, he's more powerful than survivor of the flames.
Of course, Lord Mistborn survived the flames. What are you talking about? But yeah, she knocks on the door, and the butler answers with dispassionate eyes, Lady Combs. Like, I was hoping I might see Lord Ladrian. And the butler raises an eyebrow, and she can just sense, after a lifetime around servants such as him, trained after the ancient Terrace ideal, that he did not approve. The sitting room is currently unoccupied. And I like, she even notes, like, there seems to be less art hanging here than there should be. So she's read many reports of Waxilium Ladrian. His stories of his bravery had been part of what inspired her to study the law. That's nice. Discovering that he spoke like a gentleman had been a surprise. She expected gruff and stoic, and Wayne is a whole other story. 5 minutes around the two of them had destroyed years' worth of youthful illusions about the calm, quiet lawman and his intense, devoted deputy. Yeah, it's a different thing. And I like, she's like, Wax had shown up when all the gunfire was happening in the middle of this tempest and saved her. How many days during her youth had she fondly dreamed of something like that happening? Okay. Yeah, you got some interesting daydreams there.
Yeah, she's got it bad.
And here's where the butler's like, I apologize. The master says he cannot spare the time to come down to converse with you. And then she's like, oh, and she feels all foolish and stuff. And then his lips turn down even further, and he's like, you are to accompany me to his study so he can converse with you there. Well, it's not like this room was her idea or something where it's like, I want to talk to him in this room. And he's like, sorry, he can't talk to you in this room. This was where the butler was like, hey, there's no one in there. Just go and wait in there. I guess the sitting room is probably where that sort of thing is supposed to happen when you have discussions with people.
Right.
And there's a funny bit here where if you have seen the U.S. cover, I don't know what's on y'all's cover of the book, but the U.S. cover of the book has Wax with like goggles around his neck, and Wayne is holding a gun, which is a whole other thing. But and Brandon has some comments in the annotations where he's like, so it kind of surprised me when they put made Wax look kind of steampunky on the cover, since that wasn't really with his pair of extraneous goggles. But to be fair, I did put some goggles in the book, so I guess I can't really complain. It's interesting to me how often you find out that authors have very little input on what ends up on the cover of the book.
Bloody Dresden in his hat.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, it's like he's always wearing a hat for some reason, even though he never wears a hat in the books.
I wonder if after the first one came out, Jim Butcher specifically was like, all right, he's never going to wear a hat.
At some point he starts making fun of it in the books. Like he slips in these lines where Harry talks about how much he hates hats and he doesn't like things like on his face or whatever. Like he doesn't wear sunglasses either because he doesn't like stuff on his face.
Right.
I think it took like 12 books for that. It wasn't until Changes that happened.
Yeah. Anyway, so she shows up and he's got his coat and hat off to the side and he's got his sleeves rolled up, his black goggles on, and is holding up something with a pair of tongs. And he's like, "Oh, Marasi, come in. Tilom, you can go." "Yes, my lord," the butler said with a suffering tone.
And he's just like, "Check out my science outfit, girl. I'm doing science."
Dr. Horrible.
So yeah, he's got like a little Bunsen burner and he's got the flame kicking up and the tongs and stuff. Then he holds up a thing of clear liquid dirt. He's like, "Hey, does this look blue to you?" And she goes, "No, should it?" He goes, "Apparently not." Huh. And eventually, I like the paragraph. She was talking to a legend, and he was wearing a pair of very silly goggles. And she's remembering the sight of him soaring through the air, gunshots exploding beneath him, chandeliers shattering as he shot a man from midair and dropped to rescue his friend. When you say it like that, it sounds really badass. Because it was. But he is experimenting to find out what alloy is being used in his guns. They're not pure aluminum. They're something stronger, and the grain is all wrong, but I've never seen this alloy before, and the bullets are apparently another alloy altogether. Gotta test them. As a side note, I'm not certain if you appreciate the advantages you possess living in the city. And she's like, "Oh, I think I'm aware." He's like, "I guess you probably are, but I was talking about how easy shopping is. If I out in the rust, if I wanted a burner that could reach these temperatures, I have to send for one and then wait for it and hope it wasn't damaged or broken when it got there. Now I can just like send out a list in the middle of the night and have this lab set up in a few hours." And he goes, "You seem hesitant. Is it the sulfur? I need that to test the gunpowder, and I guess I should open a window." And he tells her to call him Wax or Waxilium because I have a rule: saving my life entitles you to use my given name. That's fair.
Mm.
And so eventually he kind of gets her to, like, "Come on, what's bothering you?" And she's like, "Well, I mean, should we really be alone in this room?" It's like, "Why not? Is there a mass murderer hiding in the wardrobe?" And she's like, "Propriety?" He's like, Right. It's been so long since I had to even worry about. Never mind. I can call the butler back if you want." And she's like, "No, I just didn't want to put you in an awkward position. I'm sorry I'm making such a fuss." And he's like, "I mean, I'm sorry. I had forgotten about it." It's really nonsense, you realize. Too much of high society is built around the idea of making sure you don't need to trust anyone. But yeah, okay, that's fair.
Mm.
And he says, if you remove trust from the relationship, what's the point of the relationship? And she thinks this from the guy who's marrying Steris for her money, but whatever. Difficult not to feel bitter.
She at least consented to it. It's not like he was doing it like
right? Yeah,
she's getting scamming the money.
Yeah, he's a scam artist. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, he's like, "Give me all your." He's like, I want to marry you for money. And she's like, "Yeah, that's cool." It's not like he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take all this money and leave."
Not only is it cool, she wrote up the contract.
Yeah.
With the
marriage
mistresses
contract. Man, so hot. Marriage contract. Woohoo.
She's like, do something naughty. He's like, "I didn't sign this page." Ooh.
Yeah. I initialed this addendum with somebody else's name.
You only stamped it 4 times.
You are correct.
You're technically correct.
The best kind of correct.
But you finished with 2 seconds to spare, so I'm demoting you. A good bureaucrat never finishes early.
That's right.
But they have a little bit of a discussion about metallurgy. He's trying to figure out the alloy, and he thinks that maybe he's like, this is probably a tangent I shouldn't even be indulging in, but it's a hobby of mine, and I thought maybe I could use this to track back where it came from, since I know where the original shipment was stolen from. And he has this whole thing about alloys. Like, do you realize how remarkable alloys are? You take something magnetic and mix it with half of it with something non-magnetic, and you get not half as magnetic. You get a whole new metal that is something completely different from the original two. And he's like, it works for men too. A tiny change can result in creating an entirely new person. How like metals we are. He's like, I'm sorry, what can I do for you? And she's like, actually, it's about what I can do for you. We know you don't have like a lot of money, so Lord Harms, I talked to him, and he's willing to supply you with whatever you need, bankroll you to try to find Steris. And Wax is like, oh, that's great, actually. Do you think he'd mind paying for all this stuff? He's like, no, of course not. Well, that's a relief. Tilom nearly fainted when he saw what I'd spent. I think the old man's afraid we'll run out of tea if I keep this up. So he's the source of employment for 20,000 people. He owns 2 or 3% of all the land in the city and no cash.
It's all in assets.
Yeah, I know what it's like to be cash poor, man. I get it. I'm not liquid. Marasi, I'm not liquid.
And they have a discussion where he's just like, I'm thinking about the guys. They clearly weren't professionals. I'm sorry, that probably doesn't make any sense to you. And she goes, no, it makes sense. The way they were itching to shoot up the building, the way the boss let himself get goaded into shooting Pateris. He's like, yeah, so they're experienced thieves, but they aren't like refined at it. They're not good at it. They have some experience. They're not, I guess, experienced. And she says a simple way to determine the type of criminal is by who they kill and when, because murderers get hanged, while thievery alone can mean escaping death. So if those guys really knew what they were doing, they would have been very happy to leave without needing to shoot anything or anyone. So they're common criminals off the street, but with very expensive weapons, which implies an outside backer. And he's like, yeah. At first, I was confused because I thought it was all about the kidnappings, but then last night they really wanted the stuff they were stealing, which, given how much all that aluminum that they're carrying around is worth, like, they'd make more money turning that aluminum into cash than they would robbing, like, a bunch of people. It doesn't make any sense, unless you have two groups, the bandits and the people who are backing the bandits. The backers want the people, the bandits want the money. Their conclusions, I guess, make sense here. And Marasi says, but that means, I was hoping that it was mostly over with because you counted just under 40 thieves originally, and you guys killed 30 or so or incapacitated. And Wax like, yeah, 31. Just get it right.
And I got most of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like, killing 3/4 of a group should it be enough to disband them, one would think. And he's like, yeah, in my experience, it would. He's like, I've done this kind of thing before, so yeah, usually that's enough. But if the boss has a backer, then they'll just go get more guys. They have a discussion about, is the boss the backer? Probably not. The whole point is you want to distance yourself. That's why you hire all these guys. But he seems to have some sort of ideology because he was talking about payback. So they decide he's probably a middle manager sort of dude. And Wax is like, you realize I spent all night coming to these conclusions and you got there in like 10 minutes? She says, I had some modest help from you. And he goes, it might be said that I had modest help from myself, technically. Which, yeah, okay. The voices whispering to you as a result of sleep deprivation do not count, my lord.
There's no sleep deprivation. That's ruin. He's back. Oh, shit.
Yeah, no, you don't want that. Harmony, what are you doing? Come on. So then they get into the genealogies of the kidnapped women. We talked about before how they're all related to the Lord Mistborn. Completely different dude, probably. Spook was the Lord Ruler all along. You heard it here first.
I could see it.
And she's like, he's like, I think they're going for Allomancers. And she's like, Basteris isn't an Allomancer. He's like, yeah, that worried me, but it's not like a deal breaker because they're going after people they think are probably Allomancers. So you're bound to get it wrong here and there, right? Once they discover that she's not what they want, then she's going to be in danger. And Marisa's like, that's why you stayed up all night. You don't think there's time. All for a woman he obviously didn't love. It was difficult not to be jealous. And she's like, oh, you have my genealogy. And he's like, yeah, I had to send out for it. Made some clerks quite angry in the middle of the night, I'm afraid. You're second cousins with Steris, but that makes you a sixth cousin to the main line here. So you're kind of an aberration. Like, why would they have picked you? There were other women there who were actually closer to what they're going for. And so he's like, maybe you were someone intentionally chosen at random to break up the pattern and make it harder to see. And then he gets into, it's like, really, when you get down to it, maybe I'm wrong about the allomancy because this is high society. There's lots of connections. This isn't the only connection. And for that fact, if you're going after allomancers, why would you want to pick women for your allomancer army? That's really specific, which fits to me with what Dak was saying. It's like, hey, if they're going for allomancers, maybe they're trying to trick, like get to Wax because he's a powerful allomancer, right?
I mean, you still got to factor into it somehow. But I'll save that for predicaments.
Okay. So it's like, yeah, I can't find anything that shows for certain that the other women taken were allomancers either. So maybe the whole allomancy is just a red herring here that I'm going after. And she's thinking, like, they're just taking women, tracing back to the Lord Mistborn, the most powerful allomancer who ever lived, a nearly mythological figure who's someone with all 16 allomantic powers in one body. How powerful would he have been? It's Spook, you know.
So
Finn
he
was
did
way
figure out
cooler.
all the medals.
Well, I mean, he would have had all 16 powers even if he never figured them out.
Yeah, I guess.
It's true.
But like people are aware that there were 16 powers then.
Well, yeah, because like I said, at the end of the book, says it's like, hey, I think he says there's 2 metals, and at the time when we read that, I was like, yeah, it's actually 2 metals and their alloys that are left, and that's kind of a little mistake there.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it would seem odd for it to be advertised there are 16 powers, and Lord Mistborn's just like, yeah, I don't know what they all are yet. I'm the greatest Allomancer ever, but I don't actually know what all my powers are.
Just
don't look into that.
having
Look,
seen,
man, do I
like-
look like I'm wearing a science outfit to you? I'm not a scientist. I don't know about the metals. I just, I know what they do when I eat them.
It's just so weird having him called the greatest like Allomancer of all time in all of history when it's like, but well, we knew Vin and Ellen and Kelsier and they were way better than Spook.
Yeah.
And other people who knew them were also around. Like, was there a point it's like Lord Mistborn's up on his throne, it's like, I am the greatest Allomancer that ever lived. In the back of the room, Breeze is going, you suck.
that Breeze wouldn't yell it out. He'd just be like, you suck.
Yeah, true. Meanwhile, Ham would probably just go, what is greatness, really?
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
And, his long-suffering girlfriend is like, man, how many women have you had children with? Jeez.
They should have had the contract for how many dalliances he's allowed to have.
Yep. I mean, come on. You never loved that chick in the first place, so. I can't even remember her name now. It's bothering me.
That was Orianne.
No, he's talking about Spook's girlfriend, right? Eldred.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and
Eldred.
also, just because I don't like somebody doesn't mean I think they should be cheated on repeatedly.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Yeah.
Spook always said he knew why she was sad.
Now he really knows why she. Maybe they broke up. I mean, that.
I know why
doesn't
you're
have to have been cheating
sad.
on her.
I know why you're sad. I just had my 5th kid, and none of them have been with you. I get it.
I know why you're sad. I am why you're sad.
Yeah, exactly. You guys ever read the play No Exit?
No.
So
Sorry, this just reminds me of that. It's like a Sartre play about these 3 guys, or well, 1 guy and 2 women who end up in hell. It's where the term hell is other people, like that expression comes from.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's like they're just escorted into this room and left there. And what they eventually conclude is that they were specifically chosen to be put with each other because they torture each other. They hate each other, and they do the work of like making this hell without whoever's in charge of hell actually having to do anything.
Oh, so the good place.
Yeah. But no, it reminded me of that because at first they all pretend that they're like, oh, it must be a mistake that I'm in hell because I was a really good person. And the guy says that he was a pacifist and he worked for a pacifist newspaper, and then his country went to war and he refused to fight, so they killed him for it. And so he's like, that's not wrong, is it? And then it turns out that his wife like just loves him so dearly and like practically worships the ground he walks on, and he just is horrible to her and cheats on her constantly. And at one point it's like, I brought this woman home one night, and I'm sure like the walls in our place were not very thick and we were very loud, so I'm sure she heard us. And then in the morning my wife brought us coffee. So yeah, I'm an asshole, and that's why I'm in hell. So the Lord Mistborn just cheating all the time, yeah, might have happened. But he could have also just broken up with her, They don't have to be together forever.
I'd like to think the worst of Spook. So.
So this is where Marasi realizes what she thinks is going on, which Wax has not twigged to yet. And she's like, allomancy is genetic. And he's like, yeah, that's why I'm looking at these like genealogical lines. And she's like, no, genetic. They're taking all women. Do you not see? They're not going to build an army of allomancers. They're going to breed one. That's why they're taking the women with the most direct lines back to the Mistborn. He's like, by the survivor spear. Well, at least that means Steris isn't in immediate danger. She's still valuable even without being an allomancer. And Marasi's like, yeah, but if I'm right, she's in a different kind of danger. And Wax is like, yeah, actually, okay. Wayne's never going to let me live down the fact that I didn't see this. And she goes, where is Wayne? And he says, he'll be back soon. I sent him out to cause a little mischief. And that's the end of the chapter. So, okay. Let's do predicaments. What do you think Wayne is doing? Should maybe be a predicament. And maybe also, do you guys think that Marasi is right?
Okay, hold on. I've got to switch devices here. Give me just a second.
Okay, cool. I like all of these like things that they say. It's like we had Harmony's wings Preservation's wings and Harmony's forearms, and I was like, by the survivor's spear.
Yeah. I mean, wasn't the spear a symbol of the Church of the Survivor in the original trilogy? It's like
it makes sense because of that, yeah.
But it's still bleak.
Well, and at the time they were like, really, that's the symbol of the church, the spear that killed him? Like, you got to be able to come up with a better symbol than that, right?
All right. So, what do I think Wayne's up to? I don't know. I honestly can't think of a thing that Wax would have him do. Snoop around, I guess. That seems to be his forte. So maybe he's looking for more information about the Vanishers somehow in town. I don't know. It's kind of I don't feel like I have enough information to make a good guess on that. So yeah. What do I think is going to happen next? I think they're going to be able to. I think first of all, kind of what I said last time is they've got to figure out how the Vanishers are vanishing, like how they're accomplishing. Now, in this last time, they just kind of retreated on horseback or whatever. So I want to say like that's not necessarily an escape that they have to be super concerned about, but they've got to be able to find them somehow. So some way of tracking them down. But something that's been brought up a couple of times, and I kind of agree with, is like the constables don't seem to be on the spot like ever when this stuff is happening. And it's like, even if it is unsafe in the city, like more unsafe than it is in the roughs, if you've got constables, like surely somebody can get there. So I think maybe there's some kind of corruption in the constabulary. That's basically somebody's palms are getting greased or something's happening where they're not like showing up immediately, but maybe not.
Well, we also don't have like phones or anything, so it's
well, sure, but
if like using the party as an example, if they took the party from all the doors and like got the guys from the kitchens inside, so no one was there to run for the cops, basically. So who knows how long it took for word to somehow make it to the constables.
I guess that's pretty convenient though to basically say like they covered all the doors and nobody outside thought anything looked suspicious when all of these men surrounded this building. So like it doesn't make a lot of sense in that aspect. And then what's more intriguing to me is like making this Miles connection. Like, so if it is this guy Miles that he thinks it is, you know, we speculated a little bit about what maybe his powers are, but it seems pretty clear that his motivation is that he doesn't like, basically from the one or two lines that guy said, he's like, he doesn't like the city people. So that could be, I mean, honestly, that could be motivation enough to do something, to do what he's doing. Basically, they're going to try to create some kind of power house out in the roughs, maybe. I don't know if that's where he's planning, if that's where he's going back to. So that's something that I'd be interested to know more about if it is the same guy. If it's not, we've obviously still got a guy that's like doesn't like city people. So we've got that. We've got kind of the mystery of like, if my question now is like, if they are using these women to create more Mistborn, like who are these women being forced to mate with? Like, that's a weird way to put it, but you know what I'm saying. Like, who are these women being forced to have sex with to have children? So that's another piece that I'm just kind of like, what? So yeah, that's really all I got.
That's a good question. It's like, you would think that if they're trying to create Allomancers by going back to like this original powerful line of Allomancy, then you would want men from that line too, right? Or from some equally powerful Allomantic line, which apparently there isn't one, because Lord Mistborn was the most powerful Allomancer in history, quote unquote. So,
all good thoughts. Okay, so what's Wayne up to? Wayne's causing some mischief. I had sort of thought that maybe Wax had sent him to figure out what Miles had been up to, maybe exploring sort of that side of his hunch. I don't know how much mischief he'd get up to in that, but I'm sure Wayne would find something. How many things he can trade, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know what else he would be doing. I mean, I guess you wouldn't want to be causing a whole bunch of disruption at the moment, but some kind of investigation for sure. I'd sort of had a thought about Marasi. First thought was that she was chosen to be taken because she was seen with Wax. So it wasn't necessarily Steris. Like, yes, Steris is the one they were looking for, but then, we'll take another one. We'll take this one because the leader does have an issue with Wax personally, and sort of missed the whole thing that Steris and he were to be engaged, but because those two were talking, so maybe she was targeted because of Wax. There's also more going on with her. I mean, I'm not jumping straight on she's the bad guy wagon, but she definitely knows more and has more skills than she's willing to let on. She kind of only reveals them as she wants to or needs to. You know, she went very quickly from, I'm not really sure what to do with this gun, to being a pro. I also don't think we've explored whether she has any allomantic ability, because she's sort of removed from the line. Even though she's still in the line, she's further out. But I don't think that question ever really got raised. It was all very much of, is Steris an allomancer?
Mm-hmm. It's true.
But even they were going to take her. So I don't know. I am guessing that she probably does have some kind of allomantic ability. Perhaps it's one of the ones we don't know about yet because she's in that line. But yeah, I don't know. I think she's got more involvement than what I think we're being led to believe at the moment. It's a bit like, you know, how people who commit arson tend to be the ones that are there at the discovery or something like that.
Ooh.
So maybe she's involved with the law and order because she's secretly a criminal mastermind. I don't know.
Bold. Okay. I like how you're like, I'm not on the necessarily the Marasi the bad guy thing, but maybe she's a criminal mastermind. I'm just saying.
No, I don't think she's the master at this stage. I don't think she's the mastermind behind it, but perhaps she's got an involvement. Maybe she knows some people in the crew or something. I don't know. I just feel like there's definitely more to her than we know about at this point.
That's fair. I do have to point out for the audience, I think every single time any of us has been like, maybe so-and-so is the evil secret mastermind behind it all, it's always been like wrong. It's like maybe Ishin or was that her name?
Eshin.
From Eshin, thank you, was the secret mastermind. Or maybe who's the guy in Emperor's Soul?
Yeah, true. Okay, well, we've just confirmed then that she's totally I'll come up with a new theory next week.
No,
well, maybe that's his way of
Data
psyching us out.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is that whole Orient is the hero of ages bullshit.
Oh man. No, I'm just liking that every time now we're like, maybe there's a secret evil mastermind. It's the best thing that we're constantly on the lookout for that at this point. It's gonna turn out that Wax is the secret evil mastermind, actually. No one is expecting that.
It's going to turn out to be the talking horse. It's like, but how could you possibly know it was the dog? Well, you just give the dog shifty eyes so people will suspect the dog.
Oh, classic.
Okay, so as far as what Wayne is up to, I feel like Wax and Wayne are both good lawkeepers, and they know that you need to chase down leads. So the only leads they have at the moment is some of the crooks survived the gun battle, and Wayne has a habit of just being able to get into places that he really shouldn't be. So I feel like Wayne is going to go and try and infiltrate the lockup where they're keeping the other, like the surviving crooks.
Oh.
And have a conversation with them and try and get information out of them, whatever he can get. I don't know what's going to result in that, and I'm sure he'll probably piss off the police in some way because it just seems to be what he does, and these police are easily offended. So I think that's where Wayne's going to go at this stage. As for everything that's going on, I'm looking real hard at Miles. If it is him, I'm pretty sure it is. You know, not like we really have any other candidates for who it could be. And just thinking how personal it seems to be between him and Wayne because they know each other. He didn't seem surprised that Wax and Wayne were starting the fight, so I feel like he sorted out deliberately because he knew Wax at least would be there. And when he was talking about how, you know, people shit on the roughs and like high society doesn't care about them, I'm like, is Miles like a reverse Kelsier sort of figure. He's the criminal trying to lead the uprising against the upper class.
Hmm.
You know, given how that's how Final Empire went, this could be interesting. It's like, oh, we're seeing really the other side of that, of when criminals try and upset law and order, and like they're dragged, and how many people they're going to drag under who really are innocent of the whole thing.
That's an interesting take. Huh.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Like, I don't know who the backer is, but I keep coming back to Bloody Tan from the prologue, and everything he was banging on about how, you know, he saw God, he saw death, someone else moves us. So that's really stuck with me. I think there's got to be some religious or like mystical aspect to what's going on. Like, whoever the ultimate villain is of this book is like they're being motivated by some higher cause or some misinterpretation of a higher cause in some way. I don't quite know how, because I can't figure out what the hell Tan was on about. But yeah, I think that's got to be a part of it. And then whoever's doing it is manipulating Miles, who genuinely is trying to bring law and order to the roughs. And I think in Miles's head, having a Mistborn army means you'll just have a very effective lawkeeper army. But whoever's backing Miles is going to use these Allomancers for their own ends, and I don't know what those are yet.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't have any other candidates besides Miles at this point for who's in charge of the bandits, we definitely don't seem to have any candidates for who's in charge of the secret behind him.
Yeah.
It's Tillam, obviously. So
he's trying to corner the market on tea.
It's funny that you're like, yeah, I mean, it's probably Miles because we don't have anyone else it could be. It would be weird if you had like 3 different times where Wax is like, is that Miles? That might be Miles. And then Miles isn't actually related to the story in any way.
Yeah. It's like he's brought it up too much now. It's like, okay, even if it's not Miles, Miles has to be important. And I don't know who else it could really be at this point, because there just haven't been that many characters to. Yeah. All right, if you set it up to be one character, and then it turns out to be another character, you have to set up the character who it turns out to be. Otherwise, you're just like, oh, it's just some random dude we've never seen before. It's
going to be Miles's twin brother, Giles, and that's why it sounded so similar.
Miles's younger brother, Meters.
Okay. No, I like those. That's some interesting. I like this whole concept of like a reverse on the Kelsier that just like leads to so many possible story paths in my head. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a cool idea.
Okay, I guess so. For next time, we'll just hit on that real quick. Chapters 8, 9, and 10. So 3 chapters for next time.
Ooh.
Yeah. La-di-da. And I don't know if you guys looked at all or noticed, glanced at the next newspaper page that we're getting that's coming up before the next chapter. But I think it has one of the headlines may strike Dax fancy when it says.
Yes, I saw that.
Yep. It's for the audience. It says Iron Eyes sightings on the rise. So
the faceless immortals saved my life. Well, it says immortals.
Yeah, I think that may be a different article actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's because of the faceless immortals. Those are those religious sect that put Wax on the path. Yeah.
He says that he thinks the person who gave him his earring was one of the faceless immortals, Harmony's hands, or something like that, is what he says.
That's right.
Right.
So we'll get into that, and actually the text of that article is kind of interesting, so we'll talk about that at the beginning of the next one. But I just wanted to, that one headline, it shows up at the end of this chapter, like right underneath the text for me, so it was just right in front of me as we were reading, so I had to point it out.
Yep, fair.
So yes, 3 chapters for next time. We do not have any emails or reviews that we need to go over, so nothing we need to do there. We are now 41% of the way through this book, according to my Kindles, so we are making a lot of progress. We're almost halfway there. Probably, I imagine after the next set of chapters, we will be halfway through the books. So fun, yeah.
Sweet.
Actually, which chapters did I say for next time? So 8, 9, and 10. Yeah, we will be 55% of the way through after those.
Wow.
Yep, fun times. So, for everyone, if you would like to send us some emails, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and places like that where things happen on the internets. The internets. I don't know where that came from. In my head, I was going to say internet or interwebs, and then a P showed up in the word for some reason. Okay. So, yeah. Find us on the internet. It's a great place. Lots of fun. Music by Miracle of Sound. And Wuzzing to the Time of Next. Colo?
When we lose everything that defines us, can we hold to the promise that binds us and carry on into tomorrow's sorrow? When we're facing